All right, good morning to everybody. Larry Krueger, Guy Haberman with you, 9:05 on the West Coast. That means it's 5 minutes after noon back east. Hello, happy January the 17th. Happy division round week. And I'll be down in Santa Clara, as will Guy, for 49er practice later on today. I was there yesterday. But first, let's stream. Let's talk a little Niners. And, of course, I'm always brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. When I say until they run out, I really mean it, because a real barbecue place will actually run out. So sometimes you show up at 7 o'clock and they're out of brisket or they're out of pulled pork or whatever they're out of. And when it goes, it goes. But best barbecue you're going to find. Check it out. We're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass, as well as Underdog Fantasy and Mojo Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code KRUEG, K-R-U-E-G, and they will match you up to your first $100. What's up, Guy? Good morning. Why don't you shout out your sponsors and let's get this shindig on the road.
Larry, good morning. A Tito's toast to you and a Tito's toast brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. ButcherBox. You can get free meat for a year from butcherbox.com/ham. Use the code HAM. Prize Picks, code HAM50. First deposit match.
Sounds good.
I didn't do well in Prize Picks this week, but all right, let's go.
I did pick the Packers to beat Dallas. And a lot of people think, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. Then I put out a tweet at the beginning of the game. I said, you know what? There's a lot of Niner fans right now that are probably sitting there going, I wish the Green Bay would knock off Dallas. And then by the end of the day, those same people are going to be like, I kind of wish Dallas had beaten Green Bay.
Always the way it is.
I know. Well, and I can't, some years there's a wild card team that comes out of nowhere and shocks people and goes deep into the playoffs. Often, though, we see somebody look very, very impressive during wild card weekend. And then, the travel either gets to them or the fatigue gets to them or they suffered some injuries along the way and they show up in that division round against the rested number 1 seed, or in the past, the 1 or the 2 seed, and just go up in flames in a big, bad way. And it's interesting this year because I think both the Texans and the Packers kind of fit the description of a team that could go deeper into the playoffs. And I very much fear Green Bay, and I'm not afraid to admit that. But others are not in that category. They say, you know what, the Niners are going to whomp them up and run up and down the field, and it's going to be very one-sided, and Niners. I think this is going to be the toughest game of the 3 for the 49ers. I think Green Bay is going to be tougher than Detroit. I do anticipate it will be Detroit. And I think this Green Bay team very well could be tougher than who they play in the Super Bowl. Give me your assessment of the wild card, heroes last weekend, Houston and Green Bay.
Well, you got to take, first of all these football you have to take so seriously, right? It's not basketball where there's a 7-game series. It's not baseball where there's a 7-game series, unless it's a 5-game series, unless it's a 1-game playoff. It's a 1-game winner take all. That's it. And so I always laugh when people are like, oh, you worry too much. You worry too much. It's like, yeah, I've watched football for more than 7 minutes. Sometimes the better team loses. So I think you have to have that level of expectation with Green Bay that they can put up a fight if the Niners don't bring their A game. And I think the whole thing is predicated on if the Niners don't bring their A game. If the Niners play the Ravens, the game is not predicated on if the Niners don't bring their A game, because they could bring their A game, but the Ravens could bring their A game. Now, I've told you I would pick the Niners in that spot, Larry. But what's wild about the NFC right now is there's nobody left who can beat the Niners A game. I'm not even sure they can beat the Niners B+ game. And the beauty is the Niners are at home, and the beauty is the Niners have the rest advantage, plus another, right? We spent the whole year, the Niners mostly had the rest disadvantage, with some exceptions, but they mostly had the rest disadvantage. This time around, they got an extra week, coming off a week that they didn't have to win, week 18. On top of that, Green Bay is playing themselves on a short week, back-to-back road games. Then, if the Niners win that game, they will again be playing with one more day of rest than their opponent. So there's a lot that's lined up here, but you still got to go play the game. It's a cliche for a reason. I think Green Bay, I thought Kyle Shanahan said it well yesterday. You were there. He basically said, well, it's not a surprise once you dive back in and watch what Green Bay's done recently, right? He hadn't watched a lot of Green Bay. He hadn't had a lot of reason to until they beat Dallas. And he said, once you go back and start watching the way they've been playing, and I think there's a direct correlation to, I was talking to a buddy of mine who covered the Cowboy-Packer game, and he said, the Packers offensive line those guys didn't miss games. Like if you go look, they all played the most snaps on that offense, as offensive linemen do. But they did feel they were kind of beat up. And because I said, well, why are they running the ball? He's like, well, Jones is getting healthy. And their offensive line, if you look at the numbers, didn't miss time, but they feel like they've gotten healthy too. So that's the thing with them, is just they're not going to – we've watched Dallas in the playoffs. You don't assume they're bringing their A game. The Niners in the playoffs, under Kyle Shanahan, they mostly bring their A game. Baltimore does not. In a small sample size on Lamar Jackson, bring its postseason A game. Houston, no sample size on them, but home game brought their A game. Did play Baltimore week 1, and actually I thought played better than probably the final score made it look. Whatever the final score was, I don't remember. I think it was like 24-9 or something like that. But go look at the numbers. It's CJ Stroud. It was a good debut for him. And I think for them, if they can play from ahead, then they got a shot. Green Bay. It's going to take a lot. And the thing at the top of that list is going to be Brock Purdy interceptions. If Brock Purdy throws them, Green Bay has a chance. If he doesn't, Green Bay does not have a chance. The Niners finish drives.
Yeah, it's weird. There's I do understand that when Purdy's thrown picks, the Niners have lost. But I don't really worry that much about him in this game. I don't know why. I just feel like he's going to play well. Kyle Shanahan, when he was asked about Purdy, said he didn't really have a bye week. He's like, we really worked him hard in meetings, on the field, practices. He took a lot of the first team reps going into that Rams game with Darnold. He shared the 1 reps with Darnold going into the Rams game. And I just think Brock's all about it. So it's like all about the preparation, all about the, he has stated many times this year, we'll see when this is all over. Well, guess what? In a lot of ways, that is you verbally upping the ante on a situation where there's already tremendous stakes. So I think he's going to be up to the task. But the question I would have for you or for anybody is, what is the Niners' weak link? What is the Niners' biggest concern? Is it Jake Moody? Is it special teams? Is it the run D? I'll say this. They better stop Aaron Jones. The Niners have had better run defenses statistically than the one they carry into this playoff game. And now here's Aaron Jones, and he's gone for over 100 in 4 straight games. And he ran for 3 touchdowns on Sunday. He only had 2 rushing touchdowns in the regular season. But he can run it, and then you can fake it to him, and you can throw it to him. And it just seems like Eric Armstead and a healthy Fred Warner and a healthy Dre Greenlaw and a healthy and rested Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. That's probably going to be enough. But if there's one concern, it's that Green Bay brings Aaron Jones, a healthy Aaron Jones. I asked Bosa yesterday what he thought of the offensive tackles. He said, man, they'll get after you in the run game. So obviously he watched some film on them and feels like they're good run blockers. But that's the primary right there is the run game. Because if they can take away Aaron Jones, then it's still a young quarterback with young weapons, and I'll take my chances. But that's a primary concern for me is the Niners run D. How concerned are you about the Niners' ability to stop the run?
What did Kyle, was that yesterday or earlier in the week that he said basically, yeah, Armstead right now is on a path to play, but it seems like it's touch and go. Was that yesterday or 2 days ago he said that?
That was not yesterday.
Okay. So, Armstead's a key to that whole thing. I think the top 3 have to be run defense, rookie safety or just joined the team 3 weeks ago safety, 4 weeks ago safety, right? 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, and Moody. Now, is this the game where if Jake Moody's not quite ready for prime time, it hurts you? Shouldn't be, because you should finish drives and score touchdowns. But it's the playoffs. The reason everybody talked about Robbie Gould is because he was perfect making field goals in the postseason. Well, we all knew he was perfect making field goals in the postseason because he had to make a bunch of big kicks in the postseason. It's usually the way it works. Might rain. It's been on and off rain. Last I checked, supposed to rain. So those are the top. Those got to be the top three outside of the obvious, which is what I've said for months, and I'm not on a limb here, Larry. Injury is the only thing that should stop this team from winning a Super Bowl. And even then, Sam Darnold got to play the other day for a reason. I think it was a reason Sam Darnold was going to play that game, no matter what, whether Brock had a recent stinger history or not. Like, you got to get your backup quarterback reps before you play a postseason, the first one that you've played since your starting quarterback got knocked out of the NFC Championship game and his backup got knocked out of the NFC Championship game. But outside of that, none of the things you mentioned concern me in terms of costing them the game this week. This week, only mistakes cost them this game.
Who would you rather play at safety between Logan Ryan and Jair Brown? Assuming they're both healthy enough to play and the Niners literally have a choice, who would you rather play there?
Give me the young, talented guy who's part of your future. In a game where, again, if this were the Super Bowl and it was Jair Brown coming back, I'd go, okay, that's a different animal. And obviously, LaFleur, these guys have a very good offensive plan, but their plan. And I think it's time for Jair Brown. Like, he's going to need this experience one day or another. You're going to want him to play if he's the more talented player, which he is. You're going to want him to play in the NFC Championship game. You're going to want him to play in the Super Bowl. You're going to want him to be a safety for the next 7 years on your team. You think he can be a Pro Bowler. So I think he's got to play. The other thing is,
I agree,
they both play. That's like who starts, whatever. Like, they're both playing. So I don't know that does it really matter that much. But I'd roll with the guy that you're invested in. I think some would defer. I heard Dante Whitner with Papa and Lund yesterday. He said he'd go with Logan Ryan. He'd go with the veteran guy. Big spot, playoff game. Rookie can kind of get manipulated, and maybe it's the one manipulation, the one mistake. You get a little over amped up because that's what happens when you play in the playoffs, and you make the mistake that costs your team the game. But if this game comes down to one mistake by one person, then there's a lot of other. Then it didn't come down to one mistake by one person. The only way this is a tie game with 4 minutes left if it's a lot of mistakes have been made by a lot of people.
The one area that worries me a lot is the youth of the Packers receivers and their relative speed, and the fact that they're all young guys kind of coming on, getting better right now against the Niners secondary. That, Ambry Thomas has got just coming off a right thumb surgery. Tayshaun Gibson's battled a quad. Jair Brown with the sprained knee. Are the Niners young DBs and DBs overall going to be able to, hang in coverage with some young, really talented receivers that all have youth and energy and effort on their side? I mean, the Niners have a rest advantage and the Niners have an experience advantage. But when you're as young as Green Bay is, I kind of wonder, does it really even matter?
And a home field advantage. Now, Green Bay did just play a game in Dallas where, watching Dallas and then watching Detroit, a very stark contrast, Larry, in what home field advantage actually means in the postseason. Detroit had a home field advantage. Dallas played a home game. At no point did it feel like, now, in fairness to their fans, they got behind early. But Dallas generally doesn't feel the same. Now, it's a big place to go step on the field. So I was pretty impressed with the way Green Bay's young guys stepped up in that spot. They did not look like they were worried about it at all. They got this good thing going right now. Their quarterback's young. Their coach is, relatively young, but he's been in these spots. But the whole organization post Aaron Rodgers feels completely reborn. And they had the slow start to the year. So they're, that second half of the year, they really had to flip the switch, and it's gravy. Ambry Thomas is young. Diamador Lenore is young. Mooney Ward's in his prime. Jair Brown's young. So, it's not like the Niners are a bunch of old guys. If you tell me it's Oliver and Verrett out there running around, which of course we know it can't be, maybe that's a little different story. But these guys are all in their athletic primes. Mooney Ward's in his athletic prime. He's never been better. Larry finally made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So I don't see how that's an advantage for. I mean, it's a legitimate, to me, observation about who they are, but I don't think it's check mark box advantage Green Bay. It's an advantage for Green Bay just if you're trying to find somebody who could be good in the NFC for the next 4 or 5 years. But fast guys are fast when they're 26 too,
Where do the Niners have a clear, decided advantage, and who do you envision going off for the Niners?
Kittle.
Jake Ferguson did have 3 touchdowns last week, and Jair Alexander does
almost a pop-up.
Yeah, does have an ankle injury, and so I mean, they do have. To me, that is a spot right there. Their linebackers, I think, can be picked on. I think their safeties can be picked on. I agree with you. I think Kittle is primed for a big day.
I mean, all these guys are always primed. That's the beauty of this team. Ayuk, Debo, like they're always, I was looking at the other day, watching the Cowboy-Packer game again, and there's a sequence early in the game where the Cowboys have a 3rd down and 8. And I put it out on my Instagram, and it's in the YouTube shorts as well on our channel. But, CeeDee Lamb does what you're supposed to do. CeeDee Lamb's in the slot. Quay Walker, who's just a physical beast, is on him. And CeeDee just points at him and looks at Dak, and Dak kind of nods. And they go at him. And they just miss the Dak gets pressure off the front side, and he just puts the throw out a little too far for CeeDee. CeeDee doesn't catch it. But, Larry, one of my favorite things is to celebrate defensive backs who celebrate all wins, right? So it means whether you got a PBU because you got your hand on the ball or because the guy just dropped the ball and you were within 4 feet, DBs, what do, Larry? Celebrate all wins, right? This,
right.
this, right? That's what you should do on defense, especially on 3rd and 8. Quay Walker, drop pass. Quay Walker does one of these. And this was not, all right, drop ball, good coverage by me. I undercut the route. This was, oh no, I hope they don't do that again because that's a bad spot for me to be in. And the reality is all their linebackers are in a bad spot if they get lined up on Jennings, Ayuk, Debo, Juice, Kittle, name the guy, McCaffrey. The Niners have a very decisive advantage when it comes to being matched up on the Packers linebackers. They are not good coverage linebackers. They are talented players. You go look at like Fred Warner or Dre Greenlaw. Fred's given up an 80% reception rate, which is what those 3 linebackers give up. Dre's actually under 70. It's like 63%, but it's a high volume. He's given up a lot of catches. But they are top 15, both of them, pass coverage graded linebackers. The Packers are not. The Packers linebackers give up yards. They give up efficiency. And that's just not a position they want them to be in. So I think that's on the list. I mean, we could talk about some other things, but to me, that's at the top of the list. They're going to end up in coverage, and it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, that is a major advantage for the Niners. I mean, I really like Quay Walker. He's a great athlete, but you're right. He's better coming forward than he is going backward. And if you make him cover, you're going to find that there's going to be openings there. And Devondre Campbell is a major liability in coverage. I also kind of think they can make plays against Jonathan Owens, the safety from Houston, who's a decent player, but not the best coverage guy. So I think there's advantages in the middle of the field I expect Kittle to have a big day. I expect McCaffrey to have a really big day. What do you think about the Niners' move yesterday? They signed Austin Bryant and released Jeremy McNichols. Is Bryant, you think, going to be active on game day? And do you think he takes Cleveland Farrell's spot because Farrell's going to be out in this game? Is that what we should understand from that move?
That's how I took it. I mean, what would be the other option? Cleveland Farrell plays a lot of snaps. They like him starting. The 49ers do a very good job with this type of player, having him ready to play. They don't need the other running back. So what's the alternative?
Well,
Ambry's not ready?
Is he insurance? Do you think he and Beal are both up, or do you think he's up instead of Beal?
Has Beal been on the field?
He got a sack in the last game against the Rams. That's why I asked, because I think Beal.
Sorry, has Beal been on the field? Not week 18.
Maybe one other week. I mean, right now their edge rushers are Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Robert Beal, and Austin Bryant. Those are the edge rushers. Do they keep up, five edge rushers? I mean, you may want to in a game like this. I mean, I definitely like having a veteran like Bryant who knows your defense as an option for sure.
First of all, the other thing
I love Beal's speed.
I give Beal some credit, Larry, right? This time last year, Drake Jackson was not available to the 49ers. This year, Drake Jackson's not available to the 49ers. But this year, it's a different story. This year, it's because he's hurt, had surgery. Last year, it was because he wore down. This is where, and you go back and look at, the way some of these teams draft, and they'll take, 2 Georgia defense. You get 2 first-rounders. You're taking, who did that the other year? Was that Philly?
They took Nolan Smith and
was Nolan Smith a first rounder?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So I think multiple teams have done it. This is when you draft a guy from Georgia, as Robert Beal is, you're drafting a guy that probably played 14 or 15 college football games the year before, right? And maybe did it the year before that too. Same with Alabama. SC did not, from that standpoint. I thought, who cares about all the issues SC had? What Drake Jackson's here now. Well, this is an example of what, how ready a guy can be when he plays the highest level of college football for a long time. Next year, when they go to a 12-team playoff, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you. I've said it on my channel a few times. The college football playoff next year, get ready. You're going to be worn out. It starts before Thanksgiving. Before Thanksgiving, Larry.
Oh, I know.
And it's going to end this coming weekend. Next year, the championship game is coming up the same weekend as divisional football. So it's going to be a really long college football playoff. And, maybe there are going to be more guys like Robert Beal in theory. I guess not everyone's going to play all the way to the championship game. I would love, if you told me Robert Beal's playing in this game, that would be a major win for a guy and for a team. They took him in the 5th round. And I didn't think watching him in camp, he'd be quite ready to play this year. I didn't know if he'd be strong enough to play this year. So, in short, we'll go see practice today. I don't know the answer to your question. It's a good question. I'd love your answer, but if Robert Beal's out there, if he's getting a snap in this game, I'd say that's a pretty big sign. And next year then becomes, not to jump ahead, but then next year becomes kind of like the Ronnie Bell, Danny Gray thing, like Drake Jackson. You got to get back ahead of this guy then, right?
I love Robert Beal as far as what I saw him. I was there this summer when he dipped that left shoulder and beat Trent Williams around the corner, and everybody kind of went, wow. It was like nobody wanted to highlight that because Trent's like the leader on the team. But, he whiffed on Robert Beal, and it was just a glimpse. And then Beal missed a lot of practice this summer.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe he's one of these guys that just can't get on the field, or his highlight play is awesome, but he really can't replicate it on any kind of reasonable path. But I talked to him last week after the Ram game in the locker room, and just like he's a really solid kid. Kasaric has been very glowing of what Beal has looked like in practice since the bye week and since he came back from the injury. And I just think he's building momentum as this season goes on. And the gifts that he has are just readily apparent. 6'4", 255, 260, sub 4.5 speed, real incredible flexibility for that height and that size and that weight. An unbelievable ability to close off the edge. And, in this scheme, if you're going to have a guy opposite Bosa and you've got Hargrave and Armstead and Bosa as your other 3 guys, just give me the guy who the tackle's got to be concerned with the speed rush, because that in and of itself will spread out this line and, put a lot of pressure. I mean, if you have a guy who can run like Beal opposite Bosa, that just puts a lot of pressure, lots and lots of pressure on the line, because that tackle's got to really kick out to make sure he gets his hands on Beal so he doesn't have a beeline right to Jordan Love. And watching Jordan Love, I realize I'm older than some of you guys, so some of you guys didn't see Brett Favre, but a young Brett Favre would do exactly what Jordan Love does right now, which is he would take his drop, and then he wasn't like Purdy mobile or like a Russell Wilson or a Lamar, but he just kept drifting back, buying himself a little bit more time, all while focusing on his eyes on the receivers down the field. I'm seeing the exact same thing with Jordan Love. It's not that does figure eights, and it's not that he's Lamar or super dynamic as a runner, but he will take his drop and then he'll drift backwards. And even if he's throwing off his back foot, he uses that drift to kind of set up his timing mechanism. He can throw off without stepping into it off of 1 foot, and he can get rid of the ball, and that's how he buys more time. So to me, if you can overwhelm him with some speed, I think that kind of screws with his equation of that kind of drift. The drop and drift was it seems like what he's really, really good at right now. So I'd love to see Beal as activated and racing to get back there, because I think he could really bother Jordan Love quite a bit.
Well, for all of I said this the other day on my show, so I don't want to rehash it for people that saw it, but whatever. It's the internet. There's a lot of stuff on the internet. I'll repeat it. This is part of Brett Favre's legacy, which has been off the field. He's kind of become persona non grata and a controversial figure. Well, actually, that happened while he was still playing too. But his legacy is there's a coaching tree. There is a quarterback tree at Green Bay. These guys didn't once succeed the other independent of one another. They sat behind each. Rodgers sat behind Brett, learned a bunch of Brett stuff. And then Love sat behind Aaron and learned a bunch of Aaron stuff. It's clear. You can see it. Now, if we went and watched Jordan Love's Utah State tape, as I know you grinded through when he got drafted, and I watched as well before the draft, you see a guy with a skill set that would allow to take advantage of this type of tutoring, right? But I thought it was really interesting when I went into somebody asked me, how long does he take to throw? Love. And so I started digging into a lot of the PFF numbers, and it's pretty eye-opening how similar a lot of the numbers with him and Brock are. The percentage of their pressures that turn into sacks, Larry, is identical. So in terms of when there is pressure, not passing against pressure, but when there is pressure on you, how many times does it turn into a sack? It's an identical number. It's like, I got to pull it up. I think it's like 14.2% or whatever the number is. And there are a lot of other things that make you go, well, yeah, they are finally Green Bay's running the system they want to run, right? As kind of Nick Bosa said yesterday, when he said, oh, maybe Jordan Love's kind of doing what he's told more so than Aaron Rodgers was. And, I think it's a compliment to all of that is a compliment to Purdy. I think we in this universe around the Niners, and definitely just the NFL, Brock has been starting longer than Jordan Love has. Not much, but longer. That it feels like in some ways Jordan Love is the new kid on the block. But the reality is Jordan Love was the first round pick. Jordan Love's been in the league. This is year 3. Jordan Love is a year older than Brock. So when there are statistical similarities between the two of them, they're both good. It's a compliment to Brock. It's not a oh well maybe. I think some people take it as oh well maybe Jordan Love's just better. It's like, well, no, that's a first round pick. And you're getting the same production out of the guy you drafted last. And maybe he's better. Maybe Brock's better. I don't know. Like we're going to find out. We got time here to find out. But anyway, this started with Robert Beal. I think the matchup itself, Brock's team is very different. Their coaches are similar. Their situations are there are some similarities in their situations, but they are not similar situations. And if all goes well for both of them, and given their coaches' history with quarterbacks, the arrow's pointing up on both of them, maybe this is the new NFC rivalry for the next 8 years. Because guess who it isn't? It's not Philly. We thought it was going to be Philly.
Right.
It's not Dallas. We thought it was going to. I mean, the Dallas thing will always exist. We'll see if it's Seattle. If Seattle hires Mike Vrabel and gets a quarterback, it's Seattle again. But this game has so much future in it. As the Packers are trying to shock the world. The Niners are trying to do what they have, it feels like, is their birthright, but they have not quite figured out a way to do in 30 years. There's also this big picture kind of, this is beautiful. Niners Packers is a beautiful thing. Do we have a guest coming into the show, Larry?
Give me 30 seconds. My daughter's going back to college. I got to give her a kiss goodbye.
30. Larry's daughter is going back to college. I don't know which college. And Larry, it's 30 seconds for the goodbye. I guess it's not her freshman year because Larry would be driving her. Second semester, Larry, at Cal Poly.
Sorry about that. Yeah, she's been home. She's going back to Atlanta for grad school, and she's flying later today.
Where's she go to school?
She goes to Emory.
Wow,
in Atlanta, which is a good school.
You have smart kids, Larry.
Seriously, I don't know how. But she's my oldest, and she's fantastic. She's been home for 6 weeks or so. Came home almost like right after Thanksgiving, and she's been home a lot. But now it's time for her to go back for her next semester. She's flying today, so I had to give her the kiss goodbye and the be safe. Be safe.
Make good decisions.
Good decisions. She's actually my kid that makes the best decisions. So not that the others don't, Kev, if you're watching. But yeah, no. Anyway, thank you for giving me the little time out there. But yeah, you were talking a little bit. We were talking about Brock and Love and where the thing's at. The one thing that never surprises me, or always surprises me, and I never really anticipated, I should say, is how fast everything goes by. And I'm not getting a moment because I just kissed my daughter on the cheek and said good luck at grad school. It's more about how quickly the NFL turns over. Like if you had asked me at the beginning of the year, and I think it was a familiar take that I had in July, it was like, hey man, for years to come, it's going to be the Niners and the Eagles for the next 4 or 5 years, commandeering the NFC, and nobody else is going to get in there. Because in July, that's what it looked like to me. But I thought Detroit was a couple years away, and even though the Packers are a good organization, I really was not considering them at all. The Rams don't have their quarterback of the future, even though I really like Les Snead. Seattle doesn't have their quarterback of the future. I just thought, you know what? The NFC is going to be the Niners and the Eagles and the Niners for the next 3, 4, 5 years. But you know what? It's just the average football career is so short, and the turnover is so fast, and the injuries are such a factor that, when the Niners were in the Super Bowl against the Ravens, I thought Bowman and Willis were going to dominate for years to come. I mean, they only had really a couple more years together, and then it was all gone. And it just, when you have your opportunities, like the Niners have this opportunity where they went 12-5, they're the number 1 seed in the conference. They had the second best point differential to Dallas at plus 193. You've got your young quarterback, you've got your head coach, you've got your star left tackle, you've got all these pieces in place. You gotta make it happen. And that's what, to me, if anything, watching the wild card round, watching the young Texans, watching this young Packer team come of age in a big way, it just is a reminder that watching Detroit this weekend, that, man, you better get it done because these teams are coming. Detroit's getting nothing but better. Green Bay's getting nothing but better. And there's probably a team that I'm not even looking at right now that is building momentum behind the scenes. But those two teams are going to be heard from as major players in the conference and going forward. And, the Niners, by comparison, have some age on their roster, and it's go time. And so now here we are in the playoffs, and you've got the upstart Packers and the upstart Lions and their youth and their enthusiasm and their energy all bottled up. But then you got the Niners, and they got the home field, and they've got the rest, and they've got a room full of guys who have played in the playoffs and a room that has a bunch of guys that have played in the Super Bowl. So it's their moment. It's their moment, and they're going to have to take advantage of it right here. If they don't, anything short of a Super Bowl berth, I think, is going to be viewed as a major disappointment. And to be completely honest, they're in it to win it this year. And even if they get to that Super Bowl and fall short, there's going to be some bitterness involved for sure.
I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but there is no scenario where they can lose before the Super Bowl and it's not a disaster.
Right.
And if you're like, stop being negative. Well, all right, well, just tell me the scenario then, where you're like, oh, okay, well, you know what? If Goff's in his bag, nothing you can do. Like, no.
Right.
Yeah, and then you get to the Super Bowl, and that's great. I mean, it's not gravy. You got to go win the Super Bowl, right? Because it feels for people who have said for a long back when Kyle Shanahan was under 500. You remember those days? They weren't that long ago.
Yeah.
As a career coach, I'm like, this guy's a Super Bowl coach, and I've long looked at him, and the similarity gets brought up all the time to Andy Reid in Philly, and I think it's a pretty good similarity. The difference with that similarity is that Andy Reid did not get fired for not winning a Super Bowl. He got fired because they got bad suddenly, but not because he was a bad coach. And, I think if you watch him long enough, you go, I think there were questions about, game management was always like, can Andy manage a game at the clock? That's why they don't win a championship. But it turned out he looked like a Super Bowl coach without a Super Bowl, and he won a Super Bowl. Now he got Mahomes, but the other way to look at it, he unlocked Mahomes, or at least made more of Mahomes than anybody else could have. So now they're going to try and do it again, and he's going to have a shot to do it again. But Shanahan needs the one. Once you get the one, I don't want to say it kind of takes the pressure off, right? You get the one, and the guys that get the one and get it early, Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, they kind of become made men, right? Now, they also win a lot in addition to the one. Tomlin never loses, in fact. Payton kept competing for NFC championships. But Kyle, there's no question. If I told you Kyle Shanahan coaches 10 more years, 15 more years, 20 more years, does he have a playoff level team most of the time? You would say yes. Yes, that's going to happen. But does he have the ring that goes with it? Do they get kind of the Russell Wilson early ring, right? You go back and look at early Russ. You look at early Brady. They get their rings early. And I don't know if that takes the pressure off to a degree that then you have more success, but it does just kind of take the pressure off a little bit more. And these guys have been trying to do it. And to me, since camp, they have looked like a team with one singular mission. And, it looked for a little while like maybe Philly would look that way. But they look like a team that's been close and gets hungrier the closer they get. That's what they've looked like since the beginning. And they are that group. And I don't, how many times can you step up to the plate in the bottom of the ninth inning with the tying run at third, strike out, and come back hungrier the next year? I don't want to find out. I don't want to find out for them because there's just no guarantee that you just keep coming back.
Right.
Right.
I mean, the number one seed is hardly a given, especially with the turnover, especially with the injury factor, how quickly the careers come and go.
Look how good they were this year, Larry, and how late in the season it was until they were able to put themselves really into the one seed. And they were a really good team. They were better than a 12-5 football team this year. There were two other teams that were 12-5.
It's going to be really, really interesting to me to see how both quarterbacks play. I was talking to Demo Lenore yesterday in the locker room, and we're talking a little bit about Jordan Love. And Love's amazing so far. The run that he's in right now is amazing, right? He's got 21 touchdowns and 1 pick in his past 9 games. He had 3 touchdown passes against the Dallas Cowboys. It was his first playoff game. He had a perfect passer rating. Lenore said he's a great quarterback. He knows how to fit the ball in tight spaces. He has a good arm, and he trusts his receivers. Yeah, I mean, Fred Warner said the way he's playing right now is really great. The things that you see showing up, obviously learned under Aaron Rodgers, some of the mannerisms and the way he's operating under center and in the gun. He's doing a great job. He's making the throws, making smart decisions, which is what you want most from that position from a young player. And so obviously it's going to be a huge challenge for us. Nick Bosa actually kind of made it sound like he is playing the position at a higher level than Aaron Rodgers, was when the Niners played him. And I definitely think that he, part of being a great quarterback is having the courageousness to hold the ball long enough for your receivers to work themselves open down the field. And Rodgers may have been a little bit about self-preservation in some of the last couple of times the Niners have played him. I think the Niners beat him 4 times in the playoffs. And then there's Purdy. And I thought our man for ESPN.com, Nick Wagner, wrote a very good piece on Purdy. It was an extensive piece. And one of the little anecdotes in this piece on ESPN.com is in Purdy's first preseason game, he threw a game-winning 5-yard touchdown pass to the tight end Tanner Hudson against these same Packers. And then after the throw, he turned to the Niners sidelines and he did the Aaron Rodgers patented celebration while Rodgers was on the opposite sideline. Shanahan laughed about it. And Shanahan's quote was, I was like, dude, what are you doing? You're a rookie. You can't be doing that. What are you talking S to Aaron? He's like, no, dude, I have no idea what happened. I was just excited and out there playing. And then Kyle says he has a passion to him and a competitiveness, and it's real. And I think he had that right when he got here. Is Brock Purdy? There's already people getting ready to announce that Brock Purdy, if the Niners fall short, is not the long-term answer, so on and so forth. He's not the guy, so on and so forth. He'll be the reason they fall short. There's a lot of people laying in wait for Purdy to stumble here. But I just get the feeling that Purdy's going to thrive in his moment. What's your sense of it, Guy? I mean, you've been watching this up close and from afar. What's your sense? We know Love is in an incredible rhythm. And part of the Niners' task Saturday night is to somehow interrupt that rhythm. Somehow. And I'm not sure exactly how to do it. But that has to happen. And then for Purdy, you're hoping that 21 days off that he can establish a first quarter rhythm right away, especially against a Green Bay team that almost guaranteed to score some points. But what's your sense of Purdy? Is he still playing for the job, or is the job his no matter what? How do you expect him to play in these playoffs? This will be his second go round. He's already got 2 playoff wins. He's got more playoff wins this moment than Lamar Jackson.
In the real world, he's not playing for his job. In the real world, it's his job, meaning there's nothing that can happen in this postseason that keeps him from being the 49ers starting quarterback. There's no level of failure he can achieve that makes him not the starting quarterback this offseason. I don't think. In the world that we live in,
right.
But it's not just a YouTube, podcast, radio, media bubble thing. Look at Josh. What is this? Josh Allen's 6th year in the NFL?
Something like that, yeah.
6th year in the NFL. Do you remember 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
When he was turning it over and people were like, what the heck's wrong with this guy?
I don't know. Lamar Jackson is about to win his 2nd MVP. He's still we're still like, I don't know, can he win in the playoffs? He's still proving it. So it never ends. If you play NFL quarterback, you are one of the most watched people in this country every week, truly, by the numbers. It never ends. It does. So that's why it drove me nuts. Like when the Niners were 5-0, people going like, all right, that's it. I don't want to hear any more. And I'm pro Purdy. I don't want to hear any more debate. It's over. It's like, what? No, it doesn't. it's never over for guys until they're like, all pro, multiple Super Bowls, third contract. And then guess what? They get old and it starts up again. You're like, I don't know. Can Brady do it? So there's no over. There's like this idea that you reach the mountaintop of being unquestioned. Everyone agrees. Everybody agrees that you can't be questioned. And you never reach that state. Look at Bill Belichick. Look at Bill Belichick, the greatest NFL coach in the history of the sport. I've had people this week tell me, like, wouldn't be that bad. Wouldn't be that bad if he took the Cowboys job. Like, he doesn't know offense, like, okay, well, let Bill take that job then. And let's find out if the Cowboys get better or worse and how fast it happens. Or Philly, right? John Calipari, once upon a time, not that long ago, top of the world at Kentucky. And they're talking about his job for years now. He's not safe anymore. So this idea that there's some level that in the next 3 games, Brock Purdy can reach whereby it ends any debate and conversation. And when I say that, let me be clear. Legitimate debate and conversation, not all the bullshit, because there's plenty of bullshit too. But Colin Kaepernick, we have a great example from this franchise not that long ago. At one point, Ron Jaworski said he could be the greatest quarterback of all time. And at that time, I was like, let's investigate. Jaws, welcome to the show. Let's talk about this, right? Not Jaws, you're an idiot. Because at the time, it was like, we haven't seen anything like this in a long time. He
ran for 181. Kaepernick ran for 181 yards in a playoff game.
So, yes, in Kyle Shanahan's world, there's nothing that can happen. And part of it is I've watched enough of Brock. To your original question, I'm pretty confident in him. I've seen him coming off quote unquote rest, came back from an off-season elbow surgery, played in the middle of the season last year. Nick, I think was it Nick Wagner that also wrote the story about the Halloween party? Maybe that was the same story.
I think so.
Which was a month before Purdy got hurt in the Dolphins game, where Brock was telling Kittle and Juice and these guys, like, don't give me a chance. Just give me a chance, right? Reminiscent of Kevin Millar, that famous clip of Kevin Millar with the Red Sox down 3-0, talking to the media during BP, and he starts going through the list. I don't remember exactly how it was. You know what I'm talking about?
Millar's get this one. We got Schilling on this night.
Then we got Petey in 6. And don't let us get to game 7, right? It was like,
right.
Like, look out. We're about to be the first team to ever come back from 3-0. And they did it against the Yankees. Then they won the World Series. So I feel good about Brock. I think you know what you're going to get from him. The question with any young quarterback is always, will you get more? The question with Brock is not who is he right now? The question is, will he turn into Breeze? Is that what he's going to become? When you got to pay him $35, $40, $50 million, will he be able to elevate the people around him? Those are the questions to me with Brock Purdy. The questions with Brock Purdy are not, can he win this team a Super Bowl this year? There is no doubt in my mind that he's good enough to help them win a Super Bowl this year. There's no question about it. So I'm not concerned. Like, consistent after the Ravens game, there was no referendum on Purdy from me. I think he's in good shape. I think he's got what it takes. Does it mean the debate ends? No, everybody always wants to end the debate. Like, now it ends. It says who? You? No, sorry. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But
you got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it.
Not to ramble. The other thing I want to mention, Larry, is yes, that is life. Consistent. You got to show up today and then tomorrow and then the next day and then the next day. And now you're a consistent person. You don't get to show up on time once and say, I'm an on-time person. Back to the article about Wagner and that game-winning throw against the Packers in the preseason. It's so obvious sometimes, isn't it? When you go back and look at a clip. Like, oh, I should have seen then what I see now. If you go back and watch the clip that's in that article, what you see now is, who's the first person to greet Purdy? It's, hoodie and hat Fred Warner. Like, running up to him before Purdy's off the field, low 5, right? Like, ready to chest bump him. And in hindsight, it's like, oh my God, here is Fred Warner. Usually you're checked out by that point in the game if you're a vet. Locked in on Brock Purdy's reps. The first guy to greet him on the sideline. And we know Fred. What does Fred love to do? He loves to screw with the offense and the quarterback and Brandon Ayuk and get under people's skin and all that stuff. So in hindsight, the sign was there. Like, this dude really believed in him. Oh my God. Right. It's easy to see it now. At the time, you'd be like, oh, look at Fred helping out the young guy, giving him some confidence. But maybe that's not what it was. Maybe it was, oh, Fred believes in this guy.
That kind of leads me to the question I have for you and for every person in the chat. And I would love to hear people's answers. When did you see the genius of Brock Purdy, if you want to call it that? When did you see what it is, what he is? I mean, right now, this guy, the resume includes leads the NFL in QBR, set a franchise record for passing yards in a season with over 4,200, became the first Niner quarterback to throw for at least 30 touchdowns since 2001. There were a lot of people that didn't see it early on. For me, it was I didn't see it on draft day because I watched a lot of Iowa State, and I remember kind of a smallish quarterback who did some good things, but probably, just didn't seem like he had the NFL build or arm strength or skill set. But my buddy is a scout, and he sent me a video of his highlight reel and said, man, I've been into Ames, and I've met this kid, and I've done the deep dive. And Krug, you need to do the deep dive, and I'll get you going. Here's the video. And just trust me when I say this. I know football. I know personnel. This guy's legit. And he sent me that. So I had an advantage, and I watched it all, and I took it in. And so I had a good feeling going into minicamp that rookie year that this kid was going to fire. And then he looked great in minicamp, but I still didn't want to say anything. I'm like, I'll wait till training camp. He looked good. He looked great in training camp, like mastering every single drill. And I was pretty sold right then and there. But I'm like, I got to see it in a game in the NFL with NFL speed and size. But that first game where he's working the play clock down to like 1 or 2, and I saw the competitiveness and the mental aptitude that is so strange because you just didn't see that. I mean, it's just such a rare thing. And Tim Ryan and I talked about it on the practice field next time I saw him. I'm like, did you see Purdy in that game? And he looked at me, I looked at him. He's like, the play clock? And I'm like, yeah, he worked that play clock down to like 1. That tells me he's all about the W. And he's got the, while every other rookie quarterback is just trying to remember the plays and just do the basics, and they'll get to the QB 5.0 stuff later on. This guy had digested all of that to a level where he's like, you know what? I'm playing for the win from the first second I step on the field. And that told me his brain and his processing was just so high level. I was completely sold after one preseason game that this guy was the guy. And I know Niner beat writers who've been covering this thing for 20 years that 24 hours before the cut down were confident that this guy was going to get cut and waived. And I'm like, no. You're not seeing this. When did you see Purdy's Purdiness?
Well, I'd like to tell you there was one moment, but I think it's a succession of things, right? The first was when they decided to keep him. That was the first signal.
Paid the $3 million to say Sudfeld goodbye.
Yep. I thought if you go back, and I remember it very clearly, doing a live stream after the Dolphins game, doing a show after the Dolphins game, and not feeling like Brock was the guy, but being confident in Kyle Shanahan. So I felt like that was the first piece of the puzzle, was this guy was playing for Kyle and clearly had the skill set necessary to play for Kyle and the mental aptitude to play for Kyle. It's a lot, right? Quarterbacks, I've talked to them, they get loaded up during the week. That's where the work really is. So when Kyle said yesterday, we worked him hard, or whatever he said, like, it's the mental effort it takes to prepare to run Kyle's offense on a Sunday is high. It's very high. the first time I thought there could be something here was the next week when he played Tampa, because that was
Tom Brady.
It was just so much hype. Every backup quarterback who's been in the league for a long time and has gotten a few shots has had moments, has made a throw that looks like a Mahomes level throw or a Brady level throw, or like all these guys are pretty good. They can do it a few times. The guys do it repeatedly are the guys that become the starters. And a lot of these guys have a good game. The Cooper, not Cooper Cup. What's the guy's name? The other Cooper Rush. The Cooper Rushes of the world, right? Like the Tommy DeVitos. Like these, the history is littered with guys who had a game or a 3-game stretch or made a throw that would end up on the all-time greatest throws list if you made an all-time greatest throws list. As a kid, I remember one of my favorite VHS tapes to watch was called the 50 or the 100 greatest home runs in Major League Baseball history.
Okay.
I wore the hell out of this tape. and it wasn't just Bobby Thompson. It wasn't just Joe Carter. It was like 82-year-old Luke Appling in the Old Timers game hitting a home run. It was Dwayne Kuiper hitting the only home run of his career.
The one home run.
One homer. This is the list. Like if you put together the list of the 100 greatest throws in NFL history, there'd be like a Carson Wentz throw in there, or I don't even know who, right? There'd be a Jeff Garcia throw. You go, oh my God, that's not one of the 100 greatest quarterbacks. So I'm just giving you the idea of like my mindset going into that Tampa game was, all right, now we've got a week of hype, a week of pressure, a week of Brady, a week of all this stuff. What do you do now? Because it's one thing to react to a moment. It's another thing to sit in the pressure of it, start to realize what's going on around you, and then still perform. So I would say the Tampa game is when I thought this guy's got just maybe he's got the mental requirements from a toughness standpoint. But I also think, Larry, and so credit to you, because you're right, like you've been saying it. If you're not going to have the physicality of Lamar or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or CJ Stroud or even Jordan Love with his arm, right? If you watch one Jordan Love, I remember one Jordan Love drive last year was enough for me to go, oh my God, look at this guy throw the football, right? Other people have to be about the body of work. Like if the consistency, if the accuracy, if the smarts, if the nuanced things are going to be your point of differentiation,
Yeah,
difference, your
right.
point of difference. If the nuance is going to be your point of difference, then you got to do it for a long time, right? That was Breeze. Breeze was not watch one Breeze game and have it pop off the page.
Right.
But when you zoomed out, this is kind of the argument for Frank Gore as a Hall of Famer. I was DMing with somebody about this the other day. Like, what do you think about Frank? Is he a compiler? And I said, yes, Frank Gore is a compiler. But he's a compiler at a position where nobody compiles because it's hard to play that long at running back. It's one thing to be a receiver compiler. Plenty of guys compile at receiver. Nobody compiles at running back, which in a weird way makes, is the argument for Frank, use the argument against him for him, which was his longevity. And so I'd be lying if I told you there was a moment where I'm like, this is it. Because I think he's still proving it. But I do think to this point, he's proven the aptitude in terms of like just being able to execute NFL quickly, the pressure handling it, the accuracy handling it, the athleticism handling it, the leadership handling it. So he's checked like all these boxes other than now go do it in the playoffs. Go do it against the Ravens after they picked you off 4 times and said, we have the answers to the Brock Purdy test, right? We got the answers to the Purdy test. That's basically what they said after the game. So go do it in those spots.
Kyle Van Noy. Yeah. Kyle Van Noy said, hey, we've got the script. And let's talk about that for a second, because that was a bad day for Brock Purdy. What do you think if Kyle Van Noy was right and the Ravens showed the script of how to beat, they provided the template of how to beat Brock Purdy, then everybody else should just be able to copy that and have success beating Brock Purdy. What did Baltimore do from your perspective that that gave the template of how to beat Brock Purdy? If they did, if you accept what he's saying at face
They
value,
played from ahead.
or did they just blitz off the edges, drop guys into the middle, and have a very congested area in the windows that they anticipated his throws going?
Yeah, I mean, think about the interceptions. The first interception, what was that? What happened there? Congested area in the window?
That to me,
No, he was late.
Brock was late in the middle and I think he never really had a full account of where Hamilton was.
You know, what was, well, yes. I mean, he said afterwards, wrong play for that defense, right? When
Didn't
you watch
read the right coverage. Shanahan said he read the wrong coverage.
Juszczyk is the only guy on the right side of the field there, basically. I think, was Kittle on the right side of the field as well? I don't think so. I think Kittle was on the other side. So the only guy on Hamilton's side of the field was Juszczyk running a shallow route. Well, that's not holding Kyle Hamilton in the end zone with Debo coming across the middle. I'm not QB guy, so I'm not pretending to be. But
you're not JTO.
I'm not JTO. But go look at the play, because one of the things that basically came out of that afterwards was he's an anticipatory thrower, so we get to the spots. But if you look at the Debo interception, it was a throw in which he didn't throw with anticipation. It was a rare Brock waited for Debo to be open before he threw the football, which is not the way he plays. And Debo was actually open. Debo was just open the whole way. Okay. Tipped ball interception.
And he let him too much. Let's be honest. He let him into the defender, which he rarely does. He could have put that on his pads. Instead, he led him to a spot where Hamilton basically had the ability to jump the route.
The point is multiple things went wrong. Multiple things went wrong on that play that don't normally go wrong for them. Okay. Interception deflected at the line of scrimmage. All right. That actually, I give the Ravens more credit on that interception than some people do, because I think they anticipated what was happening. Pressure coming off both edges.
It was good coaching. It was knowing your opponent's tendencies.
Interception on the free play for the defense. Awful. Deflected ball, but bad decision. Awful decision. Right. Okay.
Great defensive play by Stevens off the edge.
Yeah.
So batted it.
What was
the
lucky
fourth? Part was he batted it right to Humphrey. That was
the fourth interception I'm missing.
Well, wasn't it in the middle of the field, late to Kittle? Wasn't that it? Or am I confusing 3 and 4?
That was 3. I used to have a list of all 4 of these. But whatever 4 was, I put in the category of a little fluky. I remember that much. And then he had the incomplete pass over the middle to a Willie Snead that hit the defensive back in the face, where Willie, which is credit to everybody on that play. I think they got pressure on him too. But Willie got kind of caught up trying to get out of his break. If that's Juwan Jennings, maybe it's different. So, yeah, I mean, this is a game of this is not checkers. This is chess. They made some moves. It's time for hopefully they'll get to the Super Bowl. Maybe it'll be the Ravens. If it happens, it'll be time for Brock to make moves back. It'll be time for Kyle to make moves back. Like, that's a good football. Like, these are great players and great coaches and great teams. So if the question
top
is
of the sport, it's the pinnacle of the sport. Everybody's striving for the ring.
It's the pinnacle of human competition. So, yeah, they did some things. Their defensive coordinator, a good coach.
Right.
Well, Kyle, you're a good coach.
And I thought the Ravens, also it's about personnel. I see things through a personnel lens, but to me, it's not about the X's and O's at this level, really. It's about the players. And if you looked at, Baltimore in the middle of the field, look what they had. Kyle Hamilton. They made Darby play the outside corner. They put Humphrey inside. So now they got a really good cover guy inside. Look at Queen. Look at Roquan, 2 of the best inside defenders in all of football. They have really, really, really good defenders in the middle of the field, and they had a great plan. They they anticipated what windows he would throw in. They clouded those windows. They closed down the space, and they won the game. And they got a couple of lucky tips that were fortunate on their part, And still the 49ers kind of dominated that game statistically and still found a way to lose it because of the turnovers.
I felt, Larry, one other thing on that game, I felt there were a lot of Brock positives out of that game, all things considered.
He kept coming back.
He kept coming
attacking.
Back. He kept attacking, made big throws, gutty throws. I thought that showed a lot.
What do you think of Greg Khan's comment here? Brock Purdy is a rare processor. I kind of agree with it. I think he processes what he sees at a high level, pre-snap and post-snap.
Well, if you don't
feel like you got to fool him.
If you don't have a rare arm, you have to be a rare processor, right?
Yeah.
So I think the evidence is probably pretty good that he is a rare processor.
Now, since here said, this is a great collab. Not sure why you persist with Grant, Krug. Why is everybody's always got to take a shot at Grant?
Well, let's see. Grant's got how many? His numbers are what?
Yeah, he's got 75,000 subs. Maybe that's it. But God,
I'm pro Grant. I'm pro Grant.
We are. I am too. By the way, we have over 1,000, roughly 1,060 people in the room right now. So if you're in there, hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, maybe we'll push this thing to 1,200
on both channels.
On both channels, that's right. And hit subscribe and hit that notification bell. And every time Guy or I go live, you can be alerted that we are going live.
Yeah, you do not
need to be there. You don't want to miss.
You don't get alerted.
You don't want to miss that alert. It's not like a shock or anything. Google.
Not yet.
Grant is a clown, but Krug loves him. We all have that friend. Oh, come on. He's a good guy. Deep down, he's a good guy.
Deep down. I love you to say deep down.
Well, I'm just saying, there's a lot of people that don't know him. And so they only catch the act. And, it's like saying there's a lot of people that think that Skip Bayless is a bad guy. Skip Bayless is a great guy. But he's a performer. As Gary Radnich used to say, he's a radio performer. Well, now he's a television performer. Or in our case, we're YouTube performers. A couple things, and I want to do some picks with you. Let me hit some of the comments here. We got this one from Bobby L. Good afternoon, Larry and Guy from the East Coast. What's up, Bobby L? I did a radio show today in D.C. I wanted to talk a lot about Bobby Slowick, maybe becoming the next head coach, and obviously a lot about Adam Peters. I didn't know Doug Hendrickson, my good buddy Doug Hendrickson, is Adam Peters' agent. How about that?
I didn't know that either. I saw him. Is he Jed Fish? Is he Jed Fish's agent?
He could be. He's Najee Harris's agent. He's agent for many players.
No.
A lot of players, a lot of coaches. Doug's a good guy. Terrelyn Love says she has become a YouTube member. I like the jersey.
I saw that join button. So I give $5 and I get to the Larry's channel and I get like badges.
That's right. And you'll get Kev releases some of our videos to our club members sooner. So you get the content before everybody else.
I got to do that.
And once we get into draft season and I start to go with my favorite draft, this and that, some of that stuff you'll get quite a bit sooner than some of the non-members. We appreciate all of our members. We've got this one from Jerry Schetzel. He says, "It's our birthright." That's a great statement. Purdy has pulled the sword from stone. He's the prince that was promised. The path has been laid out. It's our time. You guys are the best. Thank you. Almost biblical. Kind of a biblical reference there. Eric Dane says, Jordan Love's first 9 games, 14 touchdowns, 10 picks. Last 9 games, 22 touchdowns, 1 pick. For all the haters who said Trey Lance was a bust after 4 starts, it seems sometimes quarterbacks improve when they play. Who knew?
Yes. We're going to talk about Trey today? All right, we won't do
it. Trey's coming back. This is not a
practice.
Yeah. Steve Cass says the fact Brock comes in on his off days shows how he doesn't take things for granted. Brock works at his craft. There's a reason he has great footwork.
This is not like there's not optional days.
No days off.
The bye week is not vacation week.
Right. Matthew Sanders says, how does Wilkes force young Green Bay and Love into errors? That's a great question. Why don't we hit that? What do you think from Matthew Sanders? if you're Wilkes, what wrinkles does he have that can disrupt Jordan Love's amazing rhythm and force a young group of Packer receivers and tight ends into some uncharacteristic mistakes, the mistakes that they obviously haven't been making recently, didn't make last week against Dallas. What do you think, Guy?
I don't know if it's blitzing him.
He seems like that would be a bad idea because it's given him kind of defined reads by blitzing him and taking his ability to, or taking his need to read kind of out of the equation.
I think he does a pretty solid job against the blitz. So I can pull it up. And I think they do a solid job against the blitz. I'll check the numbers, but I think he's like, I don't want to get it wrong. I think he's like 65% against the blitz, which sounds wrong now that I say it out loud, but I think you got to stop the run, like you said earlier. But I don't know that there's anything other than I think if you cover against him, put them in 3rd and longs.
You got to play a coordinated defense. So your rush, your coverage has to be tied to your rush. So if you're going to speed him up, like if you're going to give him a blitz look, a pre-snap blitz look, then you have to understand how he's going to react to that and play on time, a coordinated timing situation. So if you speed him up front, you can't play a loose coverage and speed up the quarterback. That just makes him get rid of the ball to a wide open guy underneath. You've got to have a coordinated coverage unit that's tied to your rush plan.
Jordan Love is PFF 64% when not blitzed, 65% when blitzed completion percentage this year.
That's a
12
very
touchdowns,
percentage.
1 interception when blitzed. Now when he's under
blitzing young quarterbacks just gives them defined reads and makes them not have to read a lot. They know they can just react when they see blitz, and they oftentimes will throw in behind it. So those are good numbers.
I'm going to tell you where that ranks here real quick.
It's got to be high.
Let me filter out Tyson Bagent and Nick Mullins. Number 1 against the blitz, Dak Prescott, 68.7. Number 2 against the blitz, Brock Purdy, 68%. Number 3, Mahomes. Number 4, Stroud. Number 5, Tua. Number 6, Jordan Love, 65.3% against the blitz. So the number sounded good, and then when you look at it relative to the other quarterbacks in the league, it's excellent.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, 63%. Lamar, 63%.
Who's on the bottom of that list? Who's terrible against the blitz?
So I filtered it to only down to 22 quarterbacks to make sure we get all the backups out. Bryce Young, 49.7. Trevor Lawrence, 55.6.
Yeah.
Fields, Minshew, Stafford, Howell, Geno, Baker. Baker, 61% against the blitz this year.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That will be interesting to see if Detroit brings the house.
Larry, Trevor Lawrence, 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions against the blitz.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, the 49ers obviously blitzed him. If you look at that Jacksonville game, they sent extra guys and sped him up and took away. His first read was he wanted to go to Evan Ingram a lot. The Niners understood that and went away from it and basically forced him into his second read and blitzed him.
Of this group of like filtered down to 22 quarterbacks, most interceptions against the blitz. You want to take a guess? It'll make sense when Jalen Hurts.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Brock against the blitz, most touchdowns in the league against the blitz. Brock Purdy, 15.
Brock Purdy is the youngest quarterback that you can't blitz in a while. You really can't blitz him. And we had Genghis Khan in here saying he's a rare processor.
I remember this offseason, John and I interviewed Kyle Juszczyk. And I said, Kyle, what defensive coordinators are going to study all this Brock tape? What are they going to do next? And he said, well, I'm not sure because they already tried to blitz him last year. He did well against it. He already answered that bell. So what are they going to do next? We'll find out. And the answer was, nothing really. Like nothing effective.
Rush 3, drop 8. Okay. Try to anticipate the windows. I think the Ravens did have a good plan. I mean, if the Niners go with condensed formations, blitz corners off the edge who have a lot of speed and can get home, speed him up that way, make him make quick decisions in the middle of the field quicker than he wants to, and then pack the middle of the field with all kinds of extra bodies and play the odds. I mean, that's, and have guys who are reading the quarterback's eyes and breaking on the ball. If the Niners had one more weapon that was electric fast and they had that counter, I'd feel even better about their chances.
Yeah.
Because they have so many physical in the middle of the field starring type receivers, but they don't have that one electric speed guy that just makes you go, wait a second. Here's the other thing. There's an interesting article that I want to get your thoughts on too. The 49ers have a significant playoff experience advantage. Packers are one of the youngest offenses in the NFL. And the Niners obviously have home field, and they have got the experience advantage, and they're 9.5-point favorites. But penalties. And there's an interesting article up on penalties. That penalties could be the biggest factor in this game. And the numbers kind of back it up. It says during the regular season, the Niners and the Packers were both bottom 20 teams when it came to penalties. Niners averaged 5.9 a game, which was 21st in the NFL. Green Bay averaged 6.2 a game. That was good for 25th in the NFL. The NFL announced the officiating crews, and Alex Kemp's crew gets the Niner game. Kemp's crew has thrown 214 penalties in 17 games this year, averaging 12.6 a game. That's the most of any crew officiating in the playoffs. So get ready for some penalty flags here. It says, in fact, Kemp has reffed. He reffed the Niners week 1 game where they were penalized 11 times for 85 yards. And the week 13 game against Philly when they were flagged 5 times for 47 yards with 1 penalty being declined. The Packers ended the regular season on a high note, averaging just 3.7 penalties over their last 3 games. They were flagged 7 times, though, last week against Dallas for 66 yards. The Niners averaged 6 penalties for 66 yards over their last 3 regular season games. Penalties. Do you think that this is how concerning is it for you that there could be quite a few flags if the numbers hold true and Alex Kemp's crew does what they normally do?
I don't think about it at all.
Non-factor. We just don't know where they're going to come and who they're going to be on.
Yeah,
but the fact that it could be a heavily officiated game. As far as I guess my concern would be this: Green Bay's got an assortment of weapons, and there's some good. A lot of them have pretty good speed. Do you get a lot of defensive holds that extend drives?
This team has had
in San Francisco.
This team has had defensive backs for several years now that can be put in disadvantageous situations, right? That can Ambry Thomas. It's gotten better. Credit to Steve Wilkes, but he can be in a spot. Mooney Ward gets physical. Their safeties hit a lot. Dre Greenlaw, is he going to throw somebody to the turf? He's feeling good right now, right? He's had 2.5 weeks off, basically. He's going to be fresh. They gave him
didn't practice yesterday, but I think it was more precautionary.
Well, Kyle said it was just because they pushed him hard the day before, and they'll push him hard again today. So, Spencer Burford. You want to chalk up a holding call now? Right? Like, you know what this team does not, I'm going to jinx them now, knock on wood. Delay of games, they avoid. They avoid.
These are not your Harbaugh Niners.
These are not your illegal formation on the first snap of the Super Bowl Harbaugh Niners. Which you remember Michigan did the same thing against Alabama early in the Rose Bowl. Had illegal form. I think on the first series, it actually saved them because the quarterback almost threw an interception, threw it out of bounds. But I don't know, man. Like, this is where home field, I guess, matters. If we look at the numbers, teams tend to get a few more penalties on the road than they get at home. Noise, Levi's, I would imagine, will be louder for Jordan Love than it was in Dallas. So, I don't think about it at all, Larry, and I will not think about it again until the game starts. And something will happen. I'm not mocking you. Something will happen in this game because it happens in every game.
Right.
That you go, what? Bosa got held, or no, he didn't, or that face mask on McCaffrey they missed, or that's not a late hit. The way they officiate these hits on the quarterback is ridiculous, right? Like the hit that Stafford took last week versus some of the hits that some of these other guys take that do get flagged. Or is there going to be an emphasis this week on sliding quarterbacks after the Josh Allen touchdown run the other day? Are they going to make an effort? Our defensive players, like I would imagine Steve Wilkes this week and every defensive coordinator showed his defensive players that Josh Allen touchdown run the other day and then showed the Pittsburgh defense getting flagged for hitting Josh Allen while he was sliding and went, all right, guys, what are we going to do? Because this is a nightmare scenario for a defensive player. The quarterback starts to stutter step in the open field. You stop hit. You go to not hit him. Same thing happened in the Chiefs game. Remember? I think did Mahomes score a touchdown? He's coming around the right edge. Defender kind of tries. Dolphins, I don't know, linebacker or DB goes to push him because he kind of thought he was going to go down. He didn't. He just kept running. So that's a point of emphasis for the coaches this week. For all 8 of these defensive coordinators this week, that's got to be a major point of emphasis. And it's going to be, I would imagine the officials are very aware of it too this week.
I have to throw this one up there. Greg and Brandy Geltzer. Has anyone kept a spreadsheet of what Larry is concerned about?
I always laugh about that is like, oh, well, you're too negative. All right, tell you what. Let's go listen to Kyle Shanahan for a week. And let's hear what Kyle's doing. Is he pointing out a bunch of things that they could do wrong or a bunch of things they could do right? Or is it both? It's both. It's all of the things, right? Like, I heard him. I thought he gave a really good answer yesterday. Somebody asked him about, maybe it was Branch, asked him about his pregame talks. And
he's like, I don't have a big fire and brimstone talk, he said.
No, but I love hearing about people's process. And he explained on Saturdays, he gets to the hotel early. He watches all the snaps, offense, defense, special teams from the last game of his team. All the snaps.
Then I have a complaint, and he goes, I may have a lot of complaints or something like that. Or I may take a lot of issue.
They'll make a cut up. They'll make cut ups. He's like, it might be a few plays. It might be 100 plays.
Right.
Of things I want our guys to remember about what we, it might be like, hey, Dre, look how fast you're playing, right? I think it's stuff like that. I think it's
a fine tooth comb,
physicality.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's warning so much as it is like, here's where remember, fellas, this is what we look at. This is what we look like when we're at our best, right? And then he'll take the other team. Here's some reminders. Don't forget, quarterback might fake slide, right? Things like that. They hit it all. They hit it all. So, Larry, it's not negative. It's just, I always reference.
This is me, though. I mean, this is the way I go through it. When I worked in pro ball, I was a quality control coach. My job was to put together the game plans and then just take notes and bring up every possible angle that could help us win by pointing out how we could lose. We could lose here, and we could lose on this, and we could lose on that. And this is where they have an advantage. And just so everybody was cognizant of where we needed to get better, or where we were fallible, or where we were vulnerable. And so all I'm doing when I'm suggesting all these things about how good Luke Musgrave is and how good Tucker Kraft is and how good these young receivers are is just trying to show that every team's got like 4 tight ends. But their number 2 tight end is oftentimes not very good, and their number 3 tight end's even worse. Green Bay's got 2 future Pro Bowl tight ends. Their backup receivers are starting caliber backup receivers. They're just all babies. They're all really young. So And so that's it. I mean, that's kind of where I'm coming from. And then I'm just trying to kind of show people where I see the Niners having some potential, where they're potentially in danger, or where they're potentially going to be compromised, or, that's the way I look at it. I mean, give you an example, like these receivers that Green Bay has, anybody can just name them, but when you look at them closely, you can see that Christian Watson's the vertical guy. And if you watch enough of their film, you see Jaden Reed is the guy that they put in motion a ton. And if you watch all their film, you can see that Dobbs is kind of their most complete receiver, but he's kind of an intermediate receiver, and he's oftentimes their boundary X receiver. That Wicks is their big physical receiver that you got to get up on because he will run the short route, but he's so big and so physical that you got to challenge him. That Melton is super shifty, and that you got to give him proper space. And then he's not big though, so you got to get up and really hit him. So, I mean, you got to scout the personnel individually and then collectively see what they're trying to do if you're really, intent on beating a team. Couple more supers, and I got to get one thought from you, and then we'll go. Dazza says, Dazza 0187. I hope if the Niners get a lead on Green Bay, they put them away. Too often they've let teams hang around, and it makes it a game. I agree. Got to go for the jugular. You got to step on their throat. Dazza says, shut down Aaron Jones, pressure with 4, and put Mooney on Dobbs. Yeah, I like that plan too. There's no question that the one thing with Green Bay is LaFleur wants to run the ball, and they use a lot of motion. They use a lot of motion across the formation. Jones is hot. He's got 4 straight 100-yard games. Love's really good pre-snap. He's digesting what he's seeing mentally at a real high level, and he's become more precise. But, yeah, take away Jones and make him go through his progressions. I think that's definitely a plan. And then we've got this one. It's not a super, but Jensen H. is, Larry, why are you confident in the Niners beating the Ravens in a rematch? I think we can beat them, but it can't be an easy game. We need to run the ball on them. Well, just look at that box score. I think the Niners ran the ball well. I don't believe in their weapons. I think Lamar made some incredible plays in that game. I think obviously the Niners drove the football pretty consistently, but they turned it over. And a couple of those turnovers were fluky. So let's say they get 2 turnovers against Brock and not 4. And a couple of those balls land on the turf, on the surface, and it's instead of 4-0, it's 2 turnovers. I think the Niners probably win the game. So and also I just don't believe in the Ravens' weapons outside of Flowers, and you got hurt. The tight end that's been hurt all year. I don't love their runners at all.
Mark Andrews back, right?
Mark Andrews is back, but I mean, how good is he going to be? I don't know. All right. Do you make picks? Have you made picks? Do you want to stay away from making picks?
No, I don't care. I've had a lot of liquid today, so if we could make picks in an expeditious,
we'll do this. We'll do this real quick
manner.
We'll jet out. We got one last one from Bomber T. He says the NFL is going to fix it for the Chiefs. The Taylor Swift thing has them seeing dollar signs. All right. Let's go to the picks. What do you think, Guy?
I would love Niners Chiefs, by the way.
What do you think, Texans Ravens? I like the Texans to beat the Ravens. I definitely like the Texans in the 9.
I like the Ravens to win this game.
Key factor?
I have not looked at the weather for Baltimore. I would imagine it's different than being at home in Houston.
It's 28 degrees right now.
I think they're a really good team. I know Lamar has had the postseason issues. D'Amico's good. CJ Stroud's good. Sometimes this happens, but I think this is Baltimore's year to go to the AFC Championship game. I'm not convinced they're going to win the AFC, but I do think they win this week.
Bucks Lions. I'm going Lions. I feel that the Lions will win this thing by at least 10.
I like the Lions to win, but I actually like the Bucks to cover 7.
Okay. Bills Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs in Buffalo. I don't believe Bomber T that they want. It's not about Taylor Swift. I think it's about Mahomes and Reed and Rashee Rice and Pacheco and and the Chiefs defense. And Buffalo also, if you look at that last game, number of guys got hurt, a couple guys got knocked out and won't be available in this game. I like Kansas City on the road.
I also like Kansas City on the road, but I don't feel as good about it as you do, because I think there are only a handful of guys that can go toe-to-toe with Mahomes. Buffalo has one of those guys. I think them being at home is a big factor this week. It's Rashee Rice is going to have a good game for Kansas City, because he looks like maybe he is their answer, if there's such a thing, at receiver for them this year. But, like their defense, love their quarterback, love their coach. No, and I feel a little better about it. I like Kansas City.
Niners are 9-point favorites. The over-under is 50.5. I like the Niners to win, but I don't like them to cover that 9. I like the Packers and the points for sure, but I definitely think the Niners get the win.
I would not bet this game, but if you're asking me, I do like the Niners to cover 9.5 actually, and I like them to win.
When are you streaming again, man? What's your day like? Obviously, you're going to be down in Santa Clara, but when do you go again? Do you go with John later today? Or
no, I'm going to go on with Damon here in like 20 minutes, and then I'm going to
nice.
hop in the car and get down to Santa Clara and spend the day down there. And then I may do something tomorrow morning, but I'm not sure. Depends if I got to do some research dive, see if I have anything good to say.
Thanks to Pig in a Pickle, Marin Auto Glass, and thanks to both Underdog Fantasy and Mojo Fantasy. I'll be in Santa Clara the rest of the day. Tonight at around 6:30, Kev and I will do our call-in show. Until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.